welcome up to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate. I got a great guest for you, a new friend of mine, Jason Sager.
Thanks for
Woo-hoo!
having me, Jose.
Thanks for coming on, Jason. As I said to everybody, he's a new friend of mine, so I'm just go ahead and let him introduce yourself. Jason, introduce yourself to
How
the
are you?
audience and let them know what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Sager. I'm from motivatorsellers.com. We generate real-time motivated seller leads. My background, I was a CPA before. I'm a licensed pilot just for fun, scuba diver, avid hockey player. I'm a dad. Um, so I have a good time for sure.
So, motivated sellers, did you get to that by just saying, "Hey, I know people need leads," or were you investing in real estate yourself and just said, "This is a tool that I need"? How did you get to that point?
So I've always been on and off in real estate, and I can tell you some great stories. I can tell you some disasters. I was actually a CPA, and I closed the company down. I wasn't doing a whole lot, and the guys from Motivated Sellers, when it was formerly Need to Sell My House Fast, needed an accounting person, and I helped them out a little bit there. They're friends of mine in my neighborhood, and next thing I'm helping out with operations and sales, and so I just got involved in everything, and the plan was for it to be part time, a couple days a week, while I was taking it easy. I didn't want a full time job. I wanted to just stay home and chill for a little while, and I love what they do, and I love talking to the investors, and been there about since 2000 2019 now, and absolutely love it.
Awesome. So, tell everybody a little bit about motivated sellers. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but how can an average investor benefit from going to motivated sellers?
So, dude, this is a huge advantage, and I'll tell you why. We generate leads from the Google platform. So Google pay per click, SEO, right? YouTube TV, display ads. And we're generating people who are looking to sell without going through the agent. And when those leads come in, they get sent in real time to an investor. So the investor is going to call them up. They're going to talk to the person, and they're gonna try and make a deal. Conversion rates right off the top are not amazing. We're not selling deals like you would on a platform like MLS where everybody's wants to sell, but it's right there for them. What I found doing a survey just by hand a year ago, I went through a day's worth of leads, and I found that about 25% of the people sell within 1 year,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And then another 28% list and don't sell. Right. And this has been a tough year going back. So that makes sense. I'm sure those numbers would be different if I went back 3 years ago to a day's worth of leads. And there's only one day is me. I'm not using any big data. I just, putting it in myself on PropStream. But we're seeing that people want to sell. And so it becomes great for agents and investors, right? We're targeting the investor leads. We want those people. We want a person who, wants to do an off-market deal. But what happens is, just the people looking to sell think an off-market deal is whatever Zillow says minus 6%.
Okay.
And if they have a perfect house, they have everything like that, they're going to go and an agent's their best option. But so many of them, that's not their best option. I was just came back from a mastermind in Tennessee, and one of the people stopped me and goes, "Hey, I got a great lead from you." I'm like, "Oh, what happened?" He goes, "Well, we were trying to make a deal in the kitchen, and his thing is to always go to the worst room in the house to make a deal. Usually it's not the kitchen, but in this case it was." He goes, "And it was raining, and about halfway through I started getting drops of water on me." And the person's looking at it, they're embarrassed, and he's like, "Listen, don't worry about it. This is the kind of house that I buy. I have the staff to kind of go in and redo the roof and everything else." He's like, let's solve your problem. You're not a roofer. He's like, "I'm not a roofer, but I have a team that does that." And it ended up being a really nice deal. And he seller financed it a couple of months later. That was the mastermind, was about seller financing and wrapping loans. But it was just so cool to see it like actually in action, and somebody come up to me and be like, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And for me, I'm like, "Oh, what did I do?" That's from school. That was my first reaction. I didn't do nothing. Or what did I do? But but here he's like, "Oh, I got this great deal from you," and he's like, I'm gonna get about 60,000 in equity on it, and I'm gonna have cash flow for the next 30 years." People refinance an average or sell in 7 years, but it's set out to go for 30 years of cash flow. So that was a pretty cool one to look at.
Wow. Cash flow for 30 years, sign me up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, if people are not familiar with your website, is it a subscription, or do they buy it by the list that they're getting? How's that work?
No, we don't do any lists, we don't do any subscriptions, and no fees. So it's just a per lead basis. It's pay per lead. Leads start at $150 per lead, and they're sent in real time. If it's land, listed, mobile homes, wholesalers, spam, disconnected number, we'll credit them towards their next lead. So you're not paying for that kind of crap. We pay Google, but you're not paying for that stuff. And then the other thing is we talk about newer investors, right? $150 a lead is a lot, right?
Right.
And I don't want people cold calling. I don't want people cold texting. That stuff, driving for dollars, that stuff sucks. Like, no
Yeah,
offense, and people do it and it works, but it sucks. Like, you don't want, like, your goal is to do that to get out of doing that, right?
exactly.
So we offer nationwide leads for $35. And that's where we can spend a lot less money, get a lead of getting somebody looking to sell in an area where there's not as much competition. So if you're new, I would say just go with that. Don't spend the 150 right away. Spend the 35. Get a couple leads a day. Get a lead a day. Get five, whatever you can afford. Right? It's not my money. I can't, but do that and refine your skill. Then when you go into your own area that you want to own and that you know and that you love, and you're spending the money, you already have those skills down to be successful.
Awesome. So you mentioned earlier, you had some good times and bad times in your journey. Can you share some of those stories with us?
Which one do you want to hear first?
Anyone you want, whichever one comes to
All
mind. I don't like
right,
to
let's
pick.
let's let's go with the bad first and go in chronological order.
Okay.
Um, so I bought houses about 18 or 19 in upstate New York in a college town, fixer uppers. Got them really cheap, and I started renting them out. And I didn't know about tenant screening. Anybody who had enough money for first month in security, I would let in. I had tenants that wouldn't pay and would trash the place repeatedly. And it made me want to get away from real estate for like 15 years. I was just completely disillusioned by it. I was like, I don't need this. This is people don't care. And had I went more for college students and screened my tenants and actually ran credit, for example, I would have been in a much better situation. Um, I got out of that. I sold out. I probably broke even. I was lucky. One of the buildings that I bought, I actually bought it with my credit card when I was about 21, 22. Um, a school next door, a charter school was opening up and they wanted the land. So I
Oh,
ended up getting this. Yeah, so I ended up getting a pretty good number there. So I was pretty happy with that. And the house wasn't worth the work that was needed to get it up and going again after. A tenant basically didn't pay their heating and electric bills and pipes froze after I bought the house and had to redo all the pipes. And this is before PEX. I was sweating copper. I
oh.
also learned I shouldn't be doing all the work. Yeah, yeah, I was good at it, but I wasn't very fast.
Right.
I wasn't a licensed plumber or anything. Still not a license. I know how to sweat copper and do a little plumbing, but I learned from that. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this long term. At first, okay, it's fine, your first one or two, but I need to learn to outsource myself. So that was overall a disaster, but it was, you can look at it and just be upset about it, or you can go, okay, this is a good learning experience. How do I get better?
Right.
And I feel like I really have since then. Um, Good stories. I'll tell you, like I told you about the one guy who got that deal. Um, for me, just buying houses over the years. I did a flip here I live in Miami now. I did a flip with a friend of mine. This is probably 6 or 7 years ago, and we took this old junky house that was, it was a probate house. So the lady just, her neighbor inherited the house, and she just wanted to sell it.
Yeah.
And she had this is when the Lincoln Town Car was before it was discontinued. But it was a sweet car she had in the garage, and I wish I bought that car as well. It
Right.
was you know, but we bought the house. We redid the whole thing. We did a complete open floor layout, and we sold it. You know, a few months later, it was a little more expensive. It was a little more expensive the work that we had done. We had a really good contractor though, and we made a lot of money. That kind of got me going in the real estate. It was really remarkable to see, and we made some mistakes. We didn't get permits on it, and we learned you need permits. It turned out to be the same inspector. The city had one inspector,
Right.
and when he came in, he goes, "I was here 3 months ago. This place did not look like that." And I was thinking, "Hey, man, um, you're gonna expect a lot of them. He'll see so many houses, he wouldn't know the difference." And he saw it, and he was like, this place, he knew right away it was a different house, and made us go back in architectural diagrams. So instead of making 6 figure on the flip, we made, cost us 30 grand in the architect and call another 5 or 10 in holding costs. Still made, 60, 70 grand on it. It was a great eye opener of how it's never easy.
Sure.
But, when I think about working as a CPA and working, you know, 12-hour days during tax season or 8-hour days and commuting, I always thought this was way easier and way more fun. I had a vested interest in the outcome, and I was a part of it a lot more, and I really enjoyed that.
That's awesome. The people that are watching this channel, they come from different walks of life, different experience levels. And one thing I would like to ask you is, did you come from a real estate background? I mean, you talk about CPA, but I mean, you're also talking about fix and flips. And some people are afraid to like pull that trigger because, oh, I don't come from a background. I don't know how to start. How did you figure out how to start your first?
So my parents never did any real estate except for our own house. I have an uncle who's very big in real estate who I'd watch, him over the years and his success. Um, so I kind of had a view of it, and people say that do they want to pull the trigger? The thing that I would say is work with somebody at first. The answer to whether you pull the trigger or not is do it.
Right.
Right. As a CPA, I saw a lot of clients who are always interested in getting into real estate, and they learn about it, but they never do anything. And that used to drive me crazy. I say, for all the money you spent learning about it, put that into advertising, pull the trigger, make a deal. You might lose money. So what? You know how much you'll learn from actually doing it, but you need to have a mentor. You need to have somebody to work with, but don't do it where you learn the course and you get, let's say, a master's in real estate or a doctorate from YouTube University. I don't want all that, but I want you to learn. I want you to have a strong foundation, but then go out and do it. Find that mentor who's doing deals and be like, hey, let's just team up on one. Even if you're not super invested, you don't have a high profit percentage, you don't have something else. Maybe you're 50-50. Maybe you're the local investor that you found a deal and you're not sure what to do with, and you bring it to them and say, hey, listen, I don't need any I don't need any money up front. I don't want to wholesale this deal, for example. I just want to be a part of the deal with you. But whichever way you go about it, do it. Make offers, right? Don't just make, be conservative in your offers. You don't have the experience. Assume something's going to go wrong, but make the offer. Be active, right? Just
Right.
I can't stress enough. Like, do something, and I
Yeah.
almost want to use profanities, but I want to say get off your rear end and make something happen. And it's I go to a lot of events and I see these, and not everybody's doing good, but you see so many guys who come from nothing, and they I'm gonna probably get in trouble for saying this, but they have an advantage in a way because they're more hungry,
Sure.
right? And they find a way to make shit get done. And
Yep.
it's to me, I always lived middle class, and I consider myself extremely fortunate. And I didn't live through anybody else's shoes. I lived through mine, right?
Right.
But I watch some of these guys, and they talk about their stories, and I'm intrigued, and I'm like proud of them, and I'm like I'm a cheerleader, and I also want to help them. I don't want to just sit on the sidelines and clap. I want to. All right, let me help you with leads. Hey, do you need help finding money? Do you need help? Do you need a partner in this deal because you're not sure about something? But it's so cool to see that. And you talk about the all walks of life. Hey, man, you got to where you are because you have some skills that other people don't, right? There's a
Right.
lot of shit you don't know, and that's okay. But when you put people together, it's just remarkable what can be done.
Agreed. In your journey, you said I'm assuming you were originally from New York, did the college town, and now you're in Miami doing it there. Have you found it easier to do it to invest in your own backyard, or have you also expanded into maybe other markets
Uh,
for you? This
this
is
is
a
yeah.
personal goal.
So here's what I'll tell you. You're always gonna know your market a little bit better. You'll be able to drive by a little bit more.
Sure.
Um, Whatever market you choose, like I wouldn't do a war zone a D class area anymore.
Right.
I learned that from the college town. I want no part of that, right? I don't think I'm in a financial place to do a lot of class A plus here in Miami stuff, right? Where you're talking middle 7 figures, right? So I say do what you're comfortable with, do areas you know. New York is one of the hardest states to do real estate investing in
Right.
terms of wholesaling because it requires two agents. But you know what? In terms of finding deals and from our leads, it's almost easier to get leads at a better price and easier to get a deal done. You have to do more flips than wholesales there, but there's more opportunity in that sense, right? If I was going to do seller financing, I'd be in Texas or Georgia, where I know if I sell the house, I can foreclose pretty quickly um, to do it. If I'm doing rentals, I love Florida because they require you to put money in escrow right away. Whereas New York, it might be years before you can get a tenant out. So your backyard is important and where but to me it's more what are your goals and then find a place that's doable for that. I have a lot of friends in Ohio and they love it because stuff turns quickly and the prices isn't too high. The same with Pennsylvania and on the Pittsburgh side.
Right.
And they can build big portfolios really quick. It's a lot of work and a lot of you know management intensity, but they could add more stuff quicker because the prices aren't as high. So I'd say it's more important to know your market and see if your market matches your goals.
I think that's a fair point. Um, so, I mean, listening to you, you do. It sounds like you do a lot of research when you're doing your investing. What type of advice would you give people who are watching this and say, I don't know how to analyze the market? How are you what tools are you using to determine what's a good place or not?
So it depends on the strategy, right? I love the subject to stuff because you can get in with relatively less money and you're not going through the banks. It obviously has its risks, but to me that's not as big a deal. Because at the end of the day, if you're paying on a note, banks want to keep those notes going. And small credit unions might be different, but I would look at the state laws, what they have, and I would talk to different investor groups. Um, the biggest thing is go out to groups, go out to events, go out to masterminds, and hang out with people and talk. Right, the presenters are awesome. I'm a little bit partial because I present sometimes, and I hope I'm awesome, and I hope I get everybody to smile a little bit.
Absolutely.
But talk to them, talk about people who know them. Be like, hey man, what do you think of this? And some of the masterminds, people present it's very stiff, and other ones, people will sit around and debate stuff. You do that, but I think you're taking a risk doing that. And when you get that and you get that back and forth, it's not a attacking the person. And sometimes it looks like that. But when you start watching people and they're going back and forth and they're debating something, you have a lot to learn. And with real estate, I've seen more than any other industry that I've been a part of. People want to help people. People want to teach people. People want to work together. There's such an abundance mentality, and you don't see that everywhere.
Right.
And so going to it, I would say talk to people, research online. You have Chat GPT, you got all that fun stuff. End of the day, go out and talk to people who are doing it. And talk to a few people. Don't go with one opinion. You'll the cream will rise to the top very quickly.
Agreed. So you shared with us earlier in the podcast that what you bring to the table is your motivatedsellers.com. What can people bring value to you? How can somebody, if they wanted to partner with you or if they wanted to just follow your journey, how can they do that?
So biggest thing is I'd say sign up with motivatedsellers.com. Have a conversation with Joseph, who I work with. He's my brother-in-law. Hopefully you get set up. If you don't, that's okay. Um, and then just, stay in touch. Reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Jason at motivatedsellers.com. Um, if I can help you with the deal, if you want to just go over stuff, if you're just getting started and you want to pick my brain, you know, just reach out. That's the biggest thing. I can get you the links to you follow Motivated Sellers. That's where I'm going to be on all the social media, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, we'll be over there. So I would say get on those and talk to us. But biggest thing, motivatedsellers.com/Jose, sign up and just have a conversation with us, and I'm happy to talk to anybody
That's awesome. And just for the audience, it'll be down in the description as they all do, point down, right? And
right there.
make sure you have all the links. It's right there in the thing. And if you don't like YouTube, this is also going to be on Spotify. And make sure you like and subscribe. A lot of you guys are watching this and just looky loos. it helps me out if you do the subscribe and like. So, Jason, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you. Your wealth of knowledge. Everybody, go to motivatedsellers.com. Sign up. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't, like he said, you don't have to pay for anything. You talk to Joseph, talk to Jason, and who knows? Maybe you get a lead that you can make money, just like that guy that approached him in the mastermind.
There's so many. I'm gonna tell you one more story before we go.
No,
I
please.
was on Friday, I'm at a mastermind and I'm talking to this girl and she goes, "You don't know who I am, do you?" And I was like, I don't know. I'm sorry." She said, "We were talking a lot." And she told me her name, Ashley. And basically, I was talking to her early last year, like quite often. For like 3 months, I was talking to her a lot. She had a six-figure wholesale deal from us,
Oh
which I
wow!
knew about, but I didn't recognize her and I didn't recognize her name at first. And I was so embarrassed.
Right.
And when I had a chance to speak, I told her I was hoping she was there. She had left for the day already when I was talking, but I wanted to bring her up and just be like, "Hey, tell me about that deal." So I see it. A lot of people come up. A lot of people are finding deals. A lot of people are very successful. So if you're a small guy, couple leads a month. If you're a big guy, you might go for a lot of leads, and we'll fill you up. But it's I love to see the success. So if you're working with us, reach out to me. Tell me about the deals. Like we got to succeed together, right? And it's
Absolutely.
got to be a win-win. So thanks for having me, and everybody you're listening. Tell me the good stuff. Tell me the bad, so we can get better, and let's do more together.
Awesome. I love the team mentality. I mean, that's what we're all about here. So again, Jason, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to talk with us and share with us. Again, I'm gonna put that another selfish plug. Everybody, go to motivatedsellers.com. You see the slash Jose. That's a little affiliate link for myself. If you want to support me, that'd be great. Jason, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon, bud.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.